Well, this is an extraordinary opportunity in Grangegorman. The site has been closed off for almost about 200 years, and for many people, they don't know where it exists. Where is it? You know, it's in the centre of the city, and it's actually in the centre of the historical core of the city. Most cities, of course, are growing out further and further, but this is extraordinary because the city is going to grow within. It's opening up something that's hidden, and this is extraordinary, I think, in Europe and in a medieval city like Dublin, to have this, 70, 80 acres right in the centre of the city. The area around Grangegorman too has been kind of closed off, and that's because of the physical nature of the walled enclosure. And all of that area now will be revitalised by the sheer size of this project and the energy of the project. When we first looked at the site, we saw this incredibly bucolic landscape, a kind of garden within the city, and said, let's try to keep as much of that as possible. The main spine runs through the project, starting with King's Inn and coming right through the site, and we're actually calling that St. Brendan's Way as a connection to the history of the site and association. And along that spine will be various things. Coming here as the main entry at the Broadstone, the Lewis stop here, coming through the Broadstone, the arts buildings right here, the student centre here, and as we're coming through, architecture, engineering, business at the top, tourism and central library. In the past, things have been separated. We've always tried to separate functions, separate primary school and education at the higher level and healthcare, and I think it's part of modernism to separate things. But what's richer today, I think, is to connect everything. As you're coming through here, all of the life, HSE as part of the health campus, part of connecting. These are new facilities for the existing residents on the site, a new state-of-the-art treatment centre here, and this is the primary care and future housing. There'll be a primary school here. There's also going to be their administration HSE facilities down here. This, I think, is going to do the opposite to what it was in the previous life. It's, instead of a closed off space, it's going to be incredibly open. A large portion of the site are outdoor spaces and playing fields, and we had this concept of an open hand originally, which was the shape of your hand coming down here, the sports fields being the palm of your hand and actual fingers reaching out. We want to do two things. One is to reach out and the other is to reach in. So both have the community come through here, St. Brendan's Way, the major plaza through here, and all the connections. Instead of just one entrance or one way in, that it's physically open and porous. So we have two major hearts. This is the sort of academic heart here, and we've placed the library here. And you can just see it on the site here. And it has an incredible position because you have the sports fields in the distance, and you also have the Dublin mountains. And actually, because Dublin is so built up, and it's generally a 4 or 5 story city, you never get the sense when you're in the city that the Dublin mountains are so close, or the skyline of the city. And the position of the site, it's raised up because of the air and the quality of the air for the treatment of patients here. So you have this incredible height, and when you look down, you get this, what the Chinese call the borrowed landscape. You take elements that are in a distance and collapse them into your view. So creating a kind of special space here, which is the heart. The other heart here is right at the entry from the Lewis, from the Lewis drop-off here, the Broadstone, and coming through here. This will be this sort of social heart with the arts and performing arts and theatres, and a lot of retail here as you come through. Student housing. Traditionally on campuses, student housing has always been put to one side, a series of quadrangles. And in the evening time, the life is just at the student housing. The concept here is to do the opposite, is to weave the student housing all the way through the site on that curvilinear element here that has views of the sports and creates a whole line here. And so you'll have life all along along the spine, and we're calling that spine the serpentine spine. And below here we have access to all the sports facilities, swimming pool, a gym, and all the amenities under here, changing rooms connected to the sports. We've tried to preserve nearly all of the historical buildings on the site. There are about 13 existing buildings, from the bell tower to two churches, the upper house and lower house, and each of those buildings are going to be envisaged in a new way. The functions here will relate to the library, or relating here to the functions of the square. So it's all part of the history. And I think that it's important, to celebrate human history, our time here, as part of this, not to erase or clean out or sterilize or scrape the site. It's important that people have lived here, been treated here for hundreds of years, and that's part of the history. We're going to have a special area in here called a cultural garden, and it's not a memorial, but it's about the history of the place. And when foreigners come to Dublin, that's what they're struck by, is this combination of old and new.